and welcome to another Top 5 board gaming video. Today I'm going to be talking about something that's in pretty much every single game in some form or another, but very few focus on, and that is money. That's right, we're going to be talking about money, finances, stocks, bonds, estates, all that kind of stuff, right? Specifically, I wanted to talk about games that focus on money as a commodity, as something that that you want to specifically want to earn, and that's not simply a means to an end. For example, with something like Power Grid. Yes, you've got money, you've got a great auction system, it's a great game, but in the end, the money is only used to purchase things that you use later. And all the games that I'll be talking about here, the money is the goal, right? That is the end goal. It's an interesting concept. It's an interesting sort of, I guess, subgenre of game. Technically, it's not one that's so big that you would really expect to see a whole lot of games that use it. However, that said, you will definitely see a relative theme throughout the vast majority of them. But either way, as always, please leave any and all feedback in the comments below as I'm talking about this, if you agree or disagree with me. But we're going to go right on ahead and get started with my number 5. At number 5, I've got the game that's probably the least fit to be on this list, and simply because it's meant to be more of a cartoony, fun type of game, and it is Cash and Guns. Now, we're talking about finance, we're talking about money as a goal rather than a means to an end. You really have to have something like Cash and Guns, right? Because that is the whole point. You are burglars, robbers, whatever it is, and you're trying to steal money or gems or whatever it is. I don't have the second edition, I've only got the first edition. It's settling, right? But either way, the end goal of this game is to get the most money. Now, I've held this up many times in numerous different categories, ranging from fun games to play with a large number of people, really fun game that's really quick to pick up and play, easy to learn, all that kind of stuff. I've talked about it a lot in that context, but again, the real basal thing for this is the money. If you're looking at a take that has relatively few large bills, doesn't really have a whole lot, then you're not going to put your neck out and risk it in order to try to get a piece of that. There's really not nearly as much of a reason to. So in the sense of how much money you're going to be taking, there is certainly a good deal of strategy within this, but even so, it's low on the list. It's number 5 for that exact reason, because it is a relatively minute strategy point. It is there, and in the end, you are trying to get money. That is the entire point of the game, and it's just a lot of fun. It's just a cool little game that you're just meant to mess around with and just have a good time with. But that said, this and every other game on this list, some of the best examples of money I have seen, like actual physical currency in games. I mentioned Power Grid earlier. Terrible money. Don't use the paper money in Power Grid. Use poker chips. Much better. But either way, Cash and Guns, a lot of fun, good quality money. In the end, that is what you are going for. That is the entire point of the game, is to get money. It's even in the title of the game. So come on, it's great. And it's my number 5. At number 4, I have got a game that I have mostly talked about in a somewhat negative context, simply because the one that I have is not the one that I want. That is to say, the version that I have. The game itself is Acquire. The version that I have is the Wizards of the Coast. The one that I want is Avalon Hill. Either way, the whole point of this game is that you are purchasing stocks in companies. As you go through the game, you increase the size of the companies, the stock prices rise, companies take over other companies, and you can trade in stocks and bonds and all that kind of stuff. But again, in the end, the whole point is money. It all comes down to money. And not only that, but it's a lot about balancing the short-term gains of having usable cash with the long-term idea of having the stock at the end of the game so that you can win. So it's a really interesting dynamic in that sense, and it's a lot of fun because it means that you're talking about a lot of minor aspects regarding the control of the companies and when they expand, when they don't expand, when they take over other companies, all of that kind of stuff. It really is a lot of fun and rather surprisingly strategic, I have to say. But it's a really, really good game. It's a little bit strategically heavy, not too much though. I mean, in the end, the board looks like a Scrabble board, and you've got a bunch of numbers that correspond to the different locations on the grid. It's not complex in that sense. What it's really about is the strategy of when to make your move, so to speak. But it's a lot of fun. Again, a lot of this is based around the short-term gains and short-term losses versus the long-term effectiveness of your strategy and things like that. But as with all of the ones on this list, the whole point is that it's all about the Benjamins, the monies, whatever you want to call them. Benjamin isn't actually on it because you can't have that. Either way, Acquire, a fun game, stocks and bonds, trading, money, cash, all that good stuff, and my number 4 finance-based game. At number 3, I've got a game that I really enjoy for several reasons. I have never ever talked about it, but it combines science together with, Euro-style gaming, and for the purpose of this video, a lot of effort and focus on money and investors and all that kind of thing, and it is Tesla versus Edison. This is a game that was actually funded through Kickstarter not too long ago, and it was just released. I got this. When did I get this? Just a few months ago, not too long ago. But it's a ton of fun, and the idea behind this is think of like Power Grid combined with a dash of Acquire and a little bit of another game I'm going to talk about in just a little bit. What we're talking about here is we're talking about electric companies essentially that are getting investors. You are an electrical inventor of some sort and you're trying to attract investments to you. And again, this is about the stocks, the bonds, the money, all of that kind of stuff. And on that note, some of the best money in a game I have ever seen or felt. It is absolutely incredible. The Kickstarter itself, it actually reached a point on the rewards tier with one of the stretch goals being really high quality money, and it is absolutely amazing. Definitely give it a try if you get a chance. It really is incredible. But in the end, it's a very interesting game. It's a really interesting dynamic because similarly to Acquire, this is a lot about companies sort of ebb and flow. The cash in, cash out, invest this, don't invest that, get the stocks, increase the stock value, all of that kind of stuff. That, again, it's finances, but in this case it adds another level because you're also talking about basic building and a lot of market manipulation capabilities as well. Acquire does that to a certain extent, but not nearly to the extent that I really enjoy with Tesla versus Edison. And the biggest thing for me personally is just the fact that this really is a good science-themed game. All of the cards, all the people that you play as in this game are real actual scientists, engineers, computer scientists, all of those kinds of things who actually made very significant contributions to what we know and what we do every single day. It's really cool. It's a lot of fun. And it's, again, some of the best money that I've ever seen, very high quality components, not that that really makes a difference for the purpose of this video, but it is very heavily financial focused, which, again, when you're talking about Tesla versus Edison, that was one of the big things that they always would argue about was the monetary rewards for Tesla's work, but I'm not going to rant about that. Tesla versus Edison, a great game, and my number 3 heavily financial based game. number 2, I've got a game that unfortunately I do not own, and this is one that I really debated between this one and another one. The other one, the one that I did not pick, is called Ladies and Gentlemen. With Ladies and Gentlemen, the idea is that you've got 2 teams. You've got the ladies and the gentlemen. And the gentlemen will go out to the stock market and purchase stocks and try to earn money that way and do all this kind of stuff, while the ladies will go to the boutiques and they try to figure out what clothes are going to be the hot thing and all that kind of stuff. And the problem is, I really don't play it that often. I own it. It's somewhere on my shelves back here. But I really don't like it because I find it to be really misogynistic. I really don't like it. I mean, the rules clearly state, like, you don't have to have women playing as the women. You don't have to have men playing as the men. Obviously, of course you don't. But at the same time, the game itself just comes off as really sexist and misogynistic. I don't like it, but I'm not getting on a soapbox about it necessarily. Just telling you why I didn't pick it. Instead, I picked Panic on Wall Street. Panic on Wall Street is a really, really fun game. Unfortunately, I believe it's out of print now, but it's a lot of fun. And the dynamic that you set up with this game is some of the most incredible experiences that I've had ever. As a side note, just like Tesla versus Edison, some of the best money in a board game I have ever seen. The way that Panic on Wall Street works is that you've got 2 teams, so to speak. You've got the managers and you've got the investors. The managers are property managers. They've got properties for sale that the investors or the renters can go in and rent, and the idea is that you've got a stock tracker that determines how much things are going to be worth. You've got and essentially, you've got, on the stock tracker, you've got, this is worth between -7 and +7 or something like that, like 40,000 and -40,000. You've got very, very volatile ones. You've got much less volatile ones that are very safe for the investors. So it's literally turns into screaming matches more often than not, but it's really fun. It's it's very reminiscent of the stereotypical, like, you see the brokers' offices and movies and things like that, with people shouting across the rooms and stuff like that, and that's really what it comes down to. But it's so much fun. And it's really cool because the investors are trying to read the market, try to figure out, okay, what can I invest and be comfortable with? What am I comfortable with losing for the appropriate gain, all that kind of stuff. While the people who own the properties are like, all right, well, I need to make my payments. They have to pay upkeep on all of their properties. So, okay, I have to pay my upkeep. Can I at least get that much? And, I'm looking at the market too and saying, okay, what's a fair market price? All that kind of stuff. It's a really, really, really fun game. And one of the reasons I really like it is that the teams are actually scored separately. So you've got the investors getting scored against one another, and then you've got the renters, I guess, managers, I think they're called managers, being scored separately. So you've got 2 winners, effectively, the winning investor and the winning manager. And the reason for that is the investors always end up with way more money than the managers do. But either way, it's a ton of fun. And again, it's all about the money. It's all about watching as everything rises and falls, ebb and flow with the stock prices, figuring out as a manager how much you're willing to give up potentially in profit, just to make certain that somebody is going to be in your properties, all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's a really great game, horrendously chaotic, but a lot of fun. I highly recommend it if you ever get a chance to play it. Panic on Wall Street, my number 2. At number 1, I've got a game that I have loved for many, many, many years. Not many, many years, but a long time. And this is also one that has actually been remade several different times. Most recently into like sort of a futuristic version that does a lot of the same stuff. The game itself is Imperial. Imperial is a tremendously fun game that is about, you guessed it, stocks. In this case, what you're actually doing is purchasing stocks in countries, and whoever owns the most stock in a particular country is able to control that country and perform whatever actions it desires. So think of this as, it's a sort of a combination of like a diplomacy-ish, a light version of diplomacy with something like acquire. Where you're talking about who has the majority and the minority and all that kind of stuff, depending. It's a ton of fun, and one of the reasons why I like this is because it's not solely the finances. I know that's the point of this list, but the reason this is number one is because finances are absolutely vital. But the thing is that finances indirectly get you a ton of other stuff, and this is one of the most unique games I have ever played, in that when you're playing this game, you could potentially have no turn. You could potentially not have the majority share in any country. And if that's the case, then you don't get to do anything. At the same time, if you're some kind of player and super hardcore and you have majority stake in a lot of different countries, then you're going to end up going 2 or 3 times in a single round. It's really, really crazy. It's a lot of fun though. And it really comes down to, you are managing the country's finances. Are you going to pay dividends? You got to collect taxes on people and factories and stuff like that. You got to pay upkeep. You got to make certain that you keep your stock holders happy, all that kind of stuff. Just depending, is the country making any money? If they're not making money, then, maybe somebody is going to try to take the lead from you, all that kind of stuff. It's just an incredible table dynamic where the dynamic itself is somewhat similar to Panic on Wall Street, but it's a lot less chaotic. It's much more controlled, but you still have a lot of that. Say if I've got stock in a specific country and somebody over there, whoever it is, has the majority, and I'm only 2 million away, or I think it's millions, I don't remember exactly. Yeah, if I'm only 2 or 3 million away, then they might be worried that I'm going to try to take it over from them. So maybe they want to buy some more stock. Maybe they want to bolster the country's bank, and that way I can just sit back and say, all right, I'll just sit here and collect dividends all the time. It's a lot of fun. And it's a really, really great game that, again, is very focused on the finances. That is what controls the game. Without the finances, nothing happens. If you don't have a country, you don't do anything. If you have multiple countries, then you do multiple things. It's just a really, really interesting game. And the new version, I want to say, is Imperial 2030. I could be wrong, but it's very, very similar. But this one is set in like the World War era. Of various sorts. I believe it's supposed to be World War II-ish. I'm not entirely certain though, but that's really the idea. Let me see here. Let me just read it real quick. No, World War I. I was wrong. Sorry. So either way, World War I, this is essentially the build up to that. So you're building up fleets and troops and all that good stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's a really great game. Obviously very focused on finance because that's what controls the whole thing. Imperial, by far, my number one finance related game. So that's it for me, folks. I hope that you enjoyed this video on my top 5 favorite games that really heavily involve finances and money as a control scheme rather than simply a means to an end. As I mentioned, I know this is something that is a somewhat obscure category of game that we don't really see a lot, but I hope that you enjoyed my personal examples. Let me know in the comments below, as always. Do you like my personal favorite games? Do you have your own personal favorites? Do you not like any of mine? Do you think that this is just a weird category to go over at all? Whatever you want to say, anything and everything, please down in the comments below. You guys know I always love to hear your feedback. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.
Thank you again, everybody, for watching my video of my top 5 favorite finance-based board games. As I mentioned in the beginning, I know that this is a relatively small category, but it's something that's fairly interesting, especially because money is used so many times in so many different games, but it is very rarely the focal point. As I mentioned, please put any and all thoughts in the comments below, and as always, I've got several of my playlists linked up at the top of the page so that you can see some of my latest work. If you like what you see here, please click on that big giant subscribe button as well so that you can see more of me in the future. In addition, please follow me at Danny C Gaming Sci on Twitter so that you can get notifications when I start up stuff. And with that, thank you very much again, and I'll see you next time.